My child, the moment you clicked on this video, something inside your spirit responded. You didn't click out of curiosity. You clicked because the title pulled at your heart. God says, something will happen to your son tomorrow. Those words weren't written to create fear. They weren't written for suspense. They were written because heaven wanted your attention. God needed you here, not later, not next week, now. Some messages appear at random. This one didn't. You didn't stumble upon this word by chance. It was placed in your path because heaven has scheduled a shift, and your son is positioned at the center of it. Tomorrow holds something significant, not something to dread, not something dark, but something divinely orchestrated. God is speaking directly to you because He wants you prepared, not panicked, aware, not afraid, strengthened, not shaken. Right now, you may be feeling a quiet stirring in your spirit, a sense that something is unfolding behind the scenes. You're not wrong. Heaven has been moving long before you arrived here. And now God is opening a window for you to receive clarity, guidance, and direction for your son's next chapter. God says, my child, listen. Tomorrow carries a moment that will shift your son's path. I am preparing him. I am protecting him. And I am positioning him for what I have destined. Take a deep breath. This message is not about fear. It is about alignment. It is about heaven stepping into your son's tomorrow before the world even wakes up. God has seen every silent fear you've carried about your son, every doubt, every prayer you whispered, every tear that fell when no one was around. You've wondered, is God listening? Is something truly changing? Does heaven care about my child? And right now God answers, yes, I have been watching over him. I have been working even when you saw nothing. Your son may not know what heaven is preparing. He may not feel the shift yet, but something divine is underway. God has circled tomorrow on the heavenly calendar, not because danger is coming, but because intervention is coming, because breakthrough is coming, because a moment of divine redirection is about to unfold. God says, I am stepping into your son's tomorrow to shield him from what the enemy planned and to open what the enemy tried to close. There is a reason this message reached you before the day arrives. God wants you spiritually awake so you can stand in agreement with what He is releasing. Tomorrow is not a threat. Tomorrow is a crossing point. Tomorrow is a turning point. Tomorrow is a divine appointment. Something will happen, yes, but what will happen is tied to heaven's strategy. You may not see the full picture yet, but God is asking you to trust Him with the pieces. Think back on the battles your son has faced, moments when he almost gave up, moments when he struggled, times when he drifted, doubted, felt lost, or fell under pressure. You've watched him fight storms that were too heavy for his young shoulders. You've watched him carry worries he didn't know how to express. You've seen him wounded by people who should have cared for him, discouraged by paths that should have lifted him, and confused by choices that didn't reflect who he really is. But God says, I have not forgotten him. I have written his name on the palm of my hand. Even when he walks in darkness, my light surrounds him. Even when he falls, my mercy lifts him. God has assigned angels to your son, not in the future, but already. One of those angels has been commanded to intervene tomorrow. The enemy hoped you would ignore this message, scroll away, or dismiss it as coincidence. But heaven made sure you stayed. Because your awareness is part of the protection. Your faith is part of the shield. Your agreement is part of the blessing. God says, prepare your spirit today, because tomorrow I will move. What kind of movement? A shift in atmosphere, a shift in direction, a shift in outcome. Something that might have caused harm will be redirected. Something that could have delayed him will be blocked. Something that should have overwhelmed him will be turned into favor. Your son is walking into a moment where heaven will stand between him and what the enemy planned. It may be a conversation he needs, a decision he will make, a place he will unexpectedly avoid, a person he will meet, a path he will choose, a danger he will never see because God removed it before he arrived. God says, "You don't have to fear tomorrow. I am already there." This is why you're here. Because God wanted you to know in advance that he is working, that he is covering your child, that he is stepping into tomorrow hours before the world begins its day. Some parents pray casually, but you pray with fire, you pray with tears, you pray with passion, and heaven responds to prayers like yours. God says, your faith opens doors your son cannot open. Your prayers activate protections he doesn't know he needs. Your love calls angels forth. Your son is not alone. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Maybe he has been distant. Maybe he has been struggling. Maybe he has been questioning himself, his direction, or his purpose. But God is not moved by confusion. God is moved by destiny. And your son has won. That is why tomorrow matters. Because it is not just another day. It is a marked day, a shift day, a God-appointed day. God says, stay close to me today. Stand in prayer. Speak life over him. Declare my promises. For tomorrow I will reveal what I have prepared. The shift has already begun. Heaven is already moving. And you are exactly where you need to be. Tomorrow carries more spiritual weight than you realize. The reason God is speaking so clearly right now is because something has been happening in the unseen realm surrounding your son. A battle has been unfolding quietly, one you couldn't hear, one your son couldn't see, but heaven has been fully aware of it. The enemy has tried to interfere with your son's direction for a long time. He has tried to cloud his judgment, weaken his confidence, distract his steps, and distort his identity. But God says, enough, I am stepping in. You may think your son is simply going through a phase, facing stress, facing confusion, or making normal mistakes, but spiritually, a deeper conflict has been taking place. The enemy saw the potential inside him, the leadership, the calling, the influence, the light, and he has been terrified of what your son will become if he ever realizes who he truly is. The pressure your son has felt isn't random. The discouragement wasn't accidental. The emotional storms, the sudden heaviness, the inner battles, they were all targeted attacks meant to derail him before he stepped into destiny. But tomorrow marks the interruption of that assignment. God says, I have stretched my hand toward your son. What was meant to shake him will become the very thing that strengthens him. Right now, heaven is reorganizing the spiritual atmosphere around him. Angels have been positioned at the places he will walk. The enemy's plans are being dismantled piece by piece. Even the thoughts that tried to weigh him down are being confronted by the voice of God whispering truth into his spirit. Your son may not look like a warrior right now. He may seem tired, withdrawn, or uncertain, but God sees exactly what's inside him. He sees strength others overlooked. He sees purpose your son has not yet recognized. And he sees an awakening coming, an awakening that begins with the shift happening tomorrow. Understand this, when God decides to intervene, everything changes. Not gradually, not slowly, but suddenly. The same God who parted seas, shut the mouths of lions, and turned battles around in moments is now moving on behalf of your son. There is a spiritual reason God warned you ahead of time. It's because your agreement matters. Your awareness adds power to the covering God is releasing. When you know what God is doing, you pray with greater authority, you speak with deeper faith, you stand stronger in the gap. God didn't want you surprised, He wanted you ready. Heaven has been fighting for your son long before tomorrow arrived. But tomorrow is the moment the results begin to break into the physical world. Something your son was meant to encounter, something that could have harmed him, discouraged him, or delayed him, is being rerouted entirely. God says, I am rewriting what the enemy hoped to use against him. Where there was danger, I am placing protection. Where there was confusion, I am placing clarity. Where there was temptation, I am placing escape. Where there was heaviness, I am placing peace. You may wonder how God does this. Sometimes it looks like a sudden thought that makes your son decide not to go somewhere. Sometimes it looks like an unexpected delay that keeps him from crossing paths with the wrong people. Sometimes it looks like a conversation that opens his eyes. Sometimes it looks like a shift in his emotions, a stirring in his heart, or a moment where he feels an unexplainable sense of caution or strength. These are not coincidences, these are divine interventions. Your son has been spiritually sensitive since he was young, even if he didn't fully understand it. There were moments he felt things deeply that others ignored. Times he sensed heaviness or danger before anyone else did. There is a prophetic sensitivity in him that God placed long before he was born. The enemy has attempted to distort this gift, but God is restoring it. Tomorrow, a piece of that awareness will awaken again. God says, I am calling his spirit to attention. I am reminding him of who he is. I am awakening his heart to my voice. And you will notice it. In the coming hours and days, his energy will shift. Something will look softer in his eyes. He may speak differently. He may ask different questions. He may feel drawn to distance himself from certain environments or people. He may suddenly feel the need for direction or peace. All of this is heaven working. The enemy wanted tomorrow to be a day of confusion. God is turning it into a day of clarity. The enemy wanted tomorrow to be a day of distraction. God is turning it into a day of alignment. The enemy wanted tomorrow to be a day of danger. God is turning it into a day of protection. What could have happened will not happen. What was meant to harm will not touch him. What was meant to discourage will not break him, because God has stepped in before the moment arrived. You might not see angels, but they are there. One stands at the door of your home. Another walks ahead of your son wherever he goes. They are not passive observers, they are active guardians. And tomorrow they have assignments that must be fulfilled. God says, I am sending my presence before him. I am surrounding him. I am covering him. No harm will cross the borders of my protection. Your son's spirit will feel this shift even if he cannot explain it. Something inside him will sense safety where there used to be anxiety, strength where there used to be weakness, calm where there used to be tension. Heaven's presence has a way of settling the soul without announcing itself, and you, because you are listening to this message, you are part of the protection. Your prayers tonight will build the wall. Your words will prepare the path. Your faith will activate what heaven is releasing. God says, stand firm, speak life, declare protection. For the covering of tomorrow begins with your voice today. Tomorrow is not a day to fear. It is a day to expect, a day to watch, a day to recognize the fingerprints of God. Something will happen, yes, but what will happen is God. Even as you read this, heaven is already mobilizing for what is scheduled to unfold. The shift connected to tomorrow isn't only about protection, it's also about awakening, alignment, and breakthrough. God isn't simply blocking an attack, he is preparing a blessing. He isn't merely preventing danger, he is releasing direction. Something your son has needed for a long time, a moment of clarity, a moment of spiritual stirring, a moment of divine interruption, is finally coming into motion. Your son may have walked through seasons where he felt disconnected, unmotivated, discouraged, or uncertain about his purpose. But God never saw him as lost. He saw him as a seed planted in soil, waiting for the right season to break open. And that season begins now. God is ready to awaken what has been sleeping inside him, his gifts, his calling, his inner strength, his potential, and the passion that life tried to silence. There is a purpose over your son's life that the enemy recognized long before your son did. That is why he fought him so intensely. That is why confusion surrounded him. That is why the wrong influences tried to cling to him. That is why distraction felt heavy. Because the enemy saw the mantle your son carries, the kind of person he will become, the lives he will impact, the generational chains he will break. And the enemy wanted to silence that destiny before it could rise. But God says, no more. His time is now. Tomorrow is not just protection, it is repositioning. It is heaven turning the page. It is God speaking into your son's future with authority and shaping it according to his divine plan. Something will happen tomorrow that begins a chain reaction, small in appearance, but enormous in purpose. It may be a conversation that sparks clarity. It may be an opportunity that shifts his direction. It may be a moment of discomfort that pushes him out of something harmful. It may be an unexpected realization. It may even be a closed door that saves him from disaster. But whatever it is, it will be God's hand. God says, I will remove who needs to be removed. I will open what needs to be opened. I will close what needs to be closed. I will align what has been misdirected. There are people around your son right now, some good, some not, who have influenced his steps. Some pushed him forward, others pulled him down. Some strengthened him, others drained him. Some brought peace, others brought instability. And for too long the wrong voices have been trying to shape his decisions. But heaven is intervening. Angels have already been dispatched to adjust his circle. Some connections will fade, some distractions will lose power. Some opportunities will stop appealing to him. And some new, unexpected people will come into his life. People who speak life, not negativity. People who carry wisdom, not confusion. People who see his value, not his flaws. People who will help him rise, not fall. This shift is not random. It is part of the divine rearrangement heaven is initiating. Your son is stepping into a season where God himself will become louder than every voice around him. Even if your son has resisted God, doubted God, or drifted away, God has never drifted from him. And now your son will begin to feel something he may not recognize at first, an inner pull, a tug on his spirit, a sense that something is changing. That's God calling him deeper. The spiritual battle around him has been fierce, but the reason you're receiving this message is because the tide has turned. The darkness that tried to surround him, confuse him, or intimidate him is losing its hold. The fog that clouded his judgment is lifting. The chains that tried to bind his future are breaking. Heaven has taken over the battlefield. God says, I am restoring his mind. I am stabilizing his emotions. I am healing his spirit. You may notice your son becoming quieter in the coming days, not because he is sad, but because God is touching his heart in ways he cannot yet explain. He may begin reevaluating his choices. He may feel the need to withdraw from certain people. He may feel sudden caution where he once felt reckless confidence. These are the fingerprints of heaven. The angel assigned to your son is not passive. This angel has been commanded with a specific mission to guide him toward what God has prepared and away from what the enemy planned. This angel stands not behind your son, but in front of him, clearing the path, shifting circumstances, closing harmful doors, and protecting him from unseen dangers. God says, he will not walk alone tomorrow. My angels will walk ahead of him. There will be a moment, perhaps small, perhaps quiet, where your son will feel something he hasn't felt in a long time. Peace, clarity, strength, courage, a spark, a new sense of direction, a soft voice in his heart, a freeing release in his chest, an unexplainable calm. That moment will be the sign that God has touched him. And for you, heaven is asking you to stay connected in prayer. What you pray today will surround him tomorrow. The words you speak tonight will become the shield he carries. Your agreement with this message is not symbolic, it is spiritual. God says, I am honoring your faith. I am responding to your cries. I am moving because you prayed. The shift happening tomorrow is not temporary. It will begin a transformation that unfolds over the next weeks and months. Little by little, his path will change. Little by little, his thoughts will clear. Little by little, his heart will soften. And then, suddenly, you will see a version of your son that reflects who he was always meant to be. The world will see a young man rising. You will see answered prayer, and heaven will see fulfilled purpose. God says, this is the beginning of his restoration, not the end of it, the beginning. Your son's story is not drifting out of control. It is being divinely redirected, and tomorrow is the day that redirection begins to show. What is coming next for your son is not merely a moment, it is the start of a transformation. Heaven has already positioned what he needs, and now God is beginning the work of restoring, reshaping, and rebuilding his life from the inside out. This is not just about tomorrow, it's about every tomorrow that will follow. It's about a shift that carries generational weight, a change that affects not only him but the entire future of your family. God says, what begins tomorrow will continue until the fullness of my promise is visible. There are chapters in your son's life that felt heavy, seasons where he seemed disconnected, wandering, or uncertain, times when you looked into his eyes and could sense the struggle inside him even when he didn't speak. You saw his potential, but you also saw his pain. And you wondered, how much longer? When will things change? When will he find his direction again? God answers you now. This is the turning point. The pressure he felt, the confusion he battled, the heaviness that seemed to follow him. None of that was the end of his story. Those were the shadows that show up right before the dawn breaks. And tomorrow the first rays of that dawn will appear. It may not be loud, it may not be dramatic, but something will shift, something will lighten, something will break open. And once it begins, nothing will be able to stop what God has set in motion. God says, I'm restoring peace to his mind. I'm restoring clarity to his thoughts. I'm restoring strength to his spirit. The enemy tried to exhaust him spiritually, mentally, emotionally, even physically. He tried to convince your son that he was alone. He tried to isolate him, discourage him, and make him feel unsupported. But the lie ends here. Tomorrow marks the moment your son will begin to realize he was never abandoned. He was never unprotected. He was never forgotten. He will begin to feel supported again. He will begin to feel guided again. He will begin to feel surrounded by something he cannot describe, but you will know it is the presence of God. The angel assigned to your son is not leaving after tomorrow. That angel stays. That angel protects. That angel fights battles your son cannot see, blocks dangers he cannot sense, and guides him in directions he doesn't yet understand. You may not be able to follow him everywhere, but heaven can, and heaven will. God says, my presence will rest on him. My favor will follow him. My hand will steady him. Every seed of purpose inside your son that the enemy tried to bury is being watered again. The gifts he stopped using, the dreams he stopped pursuing, the joy he stopped showing, all of these are being reignited. You will begin to see glimpses of who he used to be, but also signs of who he is becoming. There is a maturity coming, a strength coming, a deeper awareness coming. He will begin to carry himself differently. He will speak differently. He will think differently. He will make decisions with more wisdom. He will react with more peace. His spirit will feel lighter. His heart will feel steadier. His steps will feel more guided. And even if he doesn't fully understand it, you will understand it. You will know God touched him. But this transformation is not only internal, God is also shifting the external. Opportunities that felt blocked will begin to open. Paths that seemed uncertain will become clearer. People who didn't value him will fade out. People who bring blessing and clarity will enter. Doors will open, not because your son earned them, but because God ordained them. There will come a moment, soon, when you will look at him and realize, this is not the same young man who struggled. This is the young man God has been shaping. And your heart will fill with peace, relief, and gratitude, because you will know your prayers were never wasted. God heard every single one, even the ones you whispered in exhaustion, even the ones you cried silently when you felt overwhelmed, even the ones you prayed when you weren't sure what else to say. God says, none of your tears were ignored. I counted each one, and now I am answering them. Your son's future is not fragile. It is protected. It is structured by heaven. It is sealed by God's promise. No curse, no attack, no confusion, no influence, no failure has enough power to cancel what God is doing. This blessing does not depend on your son's perfection. It depends on God's decision. And God has decided he will rise. Prepare yourself emotionally and spiritually, because the coming changes may be subtle at first, but they will build. Small shifts will lead to big breakthroughs. Small decisions will lead to major transformation. Small acts of clarity will lead to life-changing direction. And through it all, your role remains powerful. Your words are spiritual weapons. Your prayers open unseen doors. Your declarations shape the atmosphere around him. Speak life over him every day. Speak peace, speak protection, speak purpose. God says, your voice gives strength to what I am doing. The path ahead for your son is filled with mercy, blessing, and restoration. The things that once broke him will become testimonies. The mistakes he made will become lessons. The pain he carried will become wisdom. The challenges he faced will become strength. God is not only saving him, not only protecting him, not only guiding him, God is raising him. Your son will become someone others look to for encouragement, direction, and inspiration. His story will shine. His resilience will grow. His purpose will unfold. What is beginning tomorrow will echo through the rest of his life. You will witness joy returning to your home, laughter replacing worry, peace replacing fear, confidence replacing uncertainty. And you will say, this is what I prayed for. This is what God promised. God says, it is done. I have spoken. I am moving. Watch what I do for your son. This is the beginning of his new chapter. This is the rise you prayed for. This is the blessing heaven prepared. And now it begins.